Welcome back to Thistle Farmstead. Today, we're going to do a review of the John Deere Z920 mower that I rehabbed. We're going to talk about what I did to the mower to get it running, the cost of the parts that I had to buy to get it running, and the overall cost. And then finally, we're going to talk about, do I think it was worth the money to get it going? If you find this video helpful or entertaining, press that like button. It really helps me out a lot, and it helps the channel out a lot. And remember to subscribe to keep up to date with all of our videos, and ring that bell notification so you'll be notified when I post a new video. Let's get to it. So today we're going to go over everything I had to do to get this mower going again. If you watch some of the previous videos, you would know that I bought this mower used, and I bought it knowing that the engine was blown in it, and the person who was selling it was forthcoming with everything that he thought was wrong with the mower and everything he did to the mower. So I knew what I was getting into when I purchased it. I didn't buy it and then find out later that the engine was blown. So I felt like the mower still had quite a bit of life to it. And when I bought it, it had 2,167 hours on it, which is a lot for a mower. And he gave me the provenance to the mower. It was used initially, or purchased initially, by a school system and used to cut grass at the school. And you see on the front there, it's got a Z4 sticker on the front. I think that was put on by the school to designate that maybe this was the fourth of 4 mowers, or however many they had. So it had some commercial use on it from a school system. He bought it from them at an auction, and he said he had it for a year or so, and everything ran fine on it. He used it on a farm of his. Since I bought it, I have been to the John Deere dealership and given them the serial number, and I found out that it is a 2014 year model. And but I did think that if I replaced the engine on it, the chassis and frame and everything would be worth the effort and the money to do it. Now, the person I bought it from, he had done a couple of things to it. He told me he had replaced the spindles on the deck, so the spindles are fairly new. He had put new tires on the back, so both tires are new. And he had also rebuilt the right rear, or the right hydro transmission. So those items had been done to it. He had replaced the blades on it also, and he gave me an extra set of blades with the mower, and he gave me an extra deck belt and traction drive belt. So he had several parts, and he was going to work on the mower himself and fix the engine, but he just decided, he didn't want to fool with it anymore, so he decided to put it up for sale. I paid $1,200 for this mower, and these mowers new, now granted it's a 2014, but these mowers new are $10,000 to $12,000, sometimes $14,000, depending on the series that you buy. I think the R series, newer ones run up into the $14,000 range. So $1,200, I didn't think was bad. I knew I would have to replace the engine. I didn't quite know what that would be, but I assumed it would be around $1,000. So that would still be well worth it. So let's get into what I did to get this thing going. So obviously the first thing I did was I replaced the engine. This is a Kawasaki FX730V engine. I bought this from Carroll Stream Engines, and this engine was $1,600 approximately. I'll put over to the right, when I edit the video, I'll put the exact numbers of everything that I bought and what they cost. So it's about $1,600 for the engine. I went ahead and just went back with the same engine that was in the unit. I did get some comments on some of my engine videos as to why I didn't go with a bigger engine with more horsepower, etc. The answer to that is I just really wanted to keep the mower stock. when I was going to buy parts for it in the future, or if I wanted to sell it, I didn't want to have to say, yeah, it's a Z920 mower, but it's got this engine and that different part, etc. So I didn't want to, you know, Frankenstein the thing to where it would be hard to get parts for. So I decided to go back with the stock engine. So I bought the engine for it. That was the biggest item, and put the engine in, and it cranked up, and everything else worked fine. I did do a couple of small things to it. I bought new deck anti-scalp wheels, and those were more expensive than I expected them to be. John Deere likes their little plastic wheels. I guess in hindsight, I could have really eBayed a lot of this stuff or searched further and got some off brands, but I just went ahead and bought stuff from John Deere. And I talked about that in one of the other videos when I did the idler pulley, that there were some cheaper ways to do things. But I did replace the deck wheels. That actually ran into a couple $100, believe it or not. So I'll put the numbers to the right on those too. And then I also had to replace or fix one of the idler pulleys here, this one. It was really, the bearing was really gone in it. And what I did, and you see the bolts in it, and I did a video on that pulley also. I bought the bearing to replace, just to replace the bearing in the pulley. I checked on the cost of the pulley. That pulley was around $100 if you bought the pulley itself, or you could get the bearing for about $3 or $4. So as you can see, I decided to go ahead and just replace the bearing in it and not the entire pulley. So really, that's all I had to do to get the mower going and mowing. Now, you've probably seen in some of the other videos, it has a leaky seal in this right-hand side, and we thought it was just the seal, or I did, and the person I bought it from thought it was just the seal. So he actually had the seal kit for it and gave that to me, along with the blades and the belts and some of the other things. And you'll see in one of my videos that I had a heck of a time getting the hub off of the axle to replace that seal. And we went ahead and replaced the seal. Unfortunately, that is not where it's leaking from. So it's a little bit more involved than just replacing the seal. And again, I don't think the person I bought it from really knew that. I don't think he was trying to pull anything over on me, because obviously he had the seal kit and he was preparing to do it himself, and just didn't get around to it. But what's going to have to happen is it's leaking between the axle and the bearing outside of the seal. And I've talked to Tough Torques, and there is a bushing inside the transmission that kind of will stop that. So what I did was I did buy the bushing. I bought a new bearing, and in the future, probably after mowing season, I'll be dropping that right side of the transmission and pulling that axle out and replacing that bushing, and see if I can get that to stop leaking. It's just kind of a pain. Right now we're parking it in the garage, and I'm having to put we've got some puppy pads, you know, the kind of pee pad things that puppies use, that I put down, that and I parked the mower on it because it is leaking the hydraulic fluid or hydrostatic fluid out. You can see it's on the inside of the rim here, and you can see a little bit on the wheel here, the tire, where it leaks when you run it, and when you park it, when the fluid gets hot, it'll leak. And that means I just have to keep a check on the fluid here before I mow. Every time I have to check the fluid just to make sure that everything's good. But that's just something I have to do right now until I get that fixed. So the engine, the pulley, the seal in the back axle, and really that's all I've done to it. Now, what I did do after we started mowing with it, this thing, we discovered really quickly, it rides rough. And I think there's a couple of things that cause that. Number one, if you look out at our property, we bought this land from a dairy farmer, and it was a cow pasture. So it is it's not smooth by any means. Even down the driveway and around the house here that we built, We didn't take a lot of time landscaping and smoothing. It's basically, we just graded it, and what grass was there, we just let it stay there. So the ground is really, really rough. So in turn, that made this thing ride really rough. So what I did was I bought a seat kit, and I have a video on that too. And you see here, I got a seat kit and put on it, and that made a world of difference. The fact that you can bounce up and down on the seat a little bit makes a lot of difference. And I also let quite a bit of air out of the tires. These tires, I believe, are rated for like 20 to 25 pounds. They were pumped up when I got it. I didn't realize, but they were pumped up to 30 pounds. So they were really, if you looked at them from behind, instead of being flat, they were like really kind of curved. They had so much air in them, which made them super hard, and that made the ride rough too. So I dropped them down to 15 pounds of air, and that helped the ride a bit too. The front tires are solid rubber tires, so you really can't do much about them. I've seen these spindle things that you can put, I think it's called Z-Glide or something Glide, I can't remember exactly, that you can buy, put on the front. I don't know that I want to invest in those yet, because it does do better with the suspension seat and the air out of the tires a bit. So really, I did take the ROP off the back, and the only reason I did that is because it was rattling something fierce. I need to get some new pins, and maybe that'll fix it. But again, it has so many hours on the mower that a lot of things are worn, and I'm seeing that there's some items on the deck that are really worn that I may wind up replacing in the future. He had welded up the outshoot on the deck, and so it basically just keeps all the grass underneath. He put mulching blades on it. However, I looked underneath the deck, and a lot of the baffles underneath the deck have basically just worn away, and where people have hit things, they're bent. So I think one of the next items I'll do, again, if we decide to keep this mower for any length of time, is buy a new mulching baffle kit to go on the deck, and then put that on. And I think that'll help with the grass clippings and the way it flows the grass clippings around. Another small thing I had to do was here where these arms come in and stop on this this flat surface here, and it has an adjustment screw here, and that controls how far your control handles come in. They were actually touching each other, or overlapping a little bit, hitting. And the reason for that was that, again, these flat pieces here were just so worn that it had worn a hole into it, and no matter how much you adjusted the bolt, it just, the things came over too far, and they were actually overlap and catch. So if you were trying to turn, you'd find yourself, locked up there and not able to go anywhere. So what I did to fix that is I just took some JB Weld and filled in those holes and kind of rubbed it across the top and filled all that in, and that worked perfectly. I don't know how long it's going to last, but if I have to put some more in it in the future, so be it. But it fixed the problem, and that was a good easy fix on that. So really, let's see, like I told you, when I bought the mower, it had 2,167 hours on it, and now it has 2,192 hours. So we've used it for 25 hours, and it's working great. It's cut our mowing time down, not quite in half, but close, because this deck is wider. The zero turn we have, or had, and still have, before this one, was a 355, a Z355. And it was a 48-inch cut, and it didn't go as fast as this. I'm not quite sure what the speed is on that one, maybe 4 miles an hour or something, I don't know. This one, I believe, goes 10 or something like that, so it's about twice as fast, 8 to 10, something like that. And it's a 60-inch cut. So the width of the deck and the fact that it goes faster really cuts down on our mowing time a lot. So I think it was worth it. So I'll put the numbers, I'll add up all the numbers and put a little chart to the right hand side of this video when I do the editing, so you can see exactly what I'm into it for. I want to say about $3,000 or $3,500. So maybe that's not too bad for a 920 mower commercial. So yeah, you tell me what you think. Did I spend too much money on this thing? Should I have done something different? Should I have gone with the bigger engine? That's what one of the viewers said. Man, you know, you had the engine off, you were buying it anyway. Why didn't you go with a bigger horsepower engine? What do you think? Should I have done that? Also, this is a choke engine. And I really thought about going with a EFI, the electronic fuel injection engine, so that we wouldn't have to worry about choking it. But I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments, and tell me if you think that I got a deal and with a little sweat equity it worked out well, or if you think I paid too much for it. And we did consider, and I have considered, maybe trying to sell it now and seeing if I can get a little bit more, obviously a bit more than what I paid and more than what I have in it, and then take that money and see if I can get one that doesn't have quite as many hours on it, or invest that money in purchasing a new one. So let me know what you think. Again, thanks for watching. If you find this video helpful, entertaining, press that like button. It really helps the channel out a lot. Those YouTube analytics, they look at the likes, and the more likes you get, the more people they direct to you. And also remember to subscribe to keep up to date with all of our videos, and press that bell notification so that you make sure that if I post a new video, you'll be notified that it's there. Thanks again.